Some crazy stuff went down at Phoenix Comicon, and we're going to talk about it. Greetings, people of the internet. I'm Scott with Serkworks Art Labs. Welcome back to the underground laboratory where we create robots, aliens, zombies, and other imminent threats to humanity. And we're going to do some of that in a minute. But I just got back from Phoenix Comicon, or should I say Phoenix DramaCon, because some crazy stuff went down, and I want to fill you guys in on some of that. You probably heard a lot of it, but I want to give you my perspective. I kind of want to give you a little mini wrap up, my review of how the con went, and do a little sketch while I'm at it. So, in the spirit of robots and aliens, I'm going to do a robotic alien invader using this. Somebody left some of these at my table, these little sketch things. It says Phoenix Comicon exclusive. So I'm going to do a little sketch on this, and we're going to talk about all the nutty stuff that went down at Phoenix Comicon. So let's get to it. So much drama in the PHXCC, it's hard to be SCOTT. So a lot of stuff happened at Phoenix Comicon, a lot of crazy stuff, and as a result, I didn't do that great. It could have been worse, I suppose. But anyway, so yeah, some nut job decided he was going to go into the convention and shoot up the place. Yeah, so this guy entered Phoenix Comicon. He was armed with like a loaded shotgun, 2 handguns, combat knives, body armor, and believe it or not, throwing stars. So fortunately, he was taken down by the cops. Not killed, but taken down, meaning apprehended. But yeah, he went there intent on killing Tommy the original Green Ranger from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and he said that he would also kill pretty much anyone that tried to stop him, especially the cops. So yeah, obviously this guy was not all there, so it's a good thing they, kudos to the police for, the Phoenix Police Department for, well, kudos to whoever tipped them off. I think it might have been a friend of his or his girlfriend or something. Kudos to her for doing that, and then what could have just been a horrible situation was averted. But that didn't really stop a lot of people from getting pretty bent out of shape, and that kind of resonated throughout, I think, the rest of the convention. So this incident caused Phoenix Comicon to heighten their security, and understandably so. But still, people weren't happy. If there's one thing people hate more than getting shot by an armed gunman, it's being inconvenienced. So what they ended up doing was they ended up banning all prop weapons, and I guess you could say that might be a little extreme. And I hope next year they'll be able to figure out a different way to do this, because it's happened so fast. I mean, I can see why they did it, because where do you draw the line? Because there's so many different gray areas of what's a weapon, what's not, what's a prop, whatever. For instance, if you're cosplaying as Mary Poppins or Kaylee from Firefly and you bring an umbrella, well, it's an umbrella. But if you're the Penguin, then it's a weapon. So there's so many gray areas and so many ways to interpret all that I think they just decided, at least for this year, just to ban all prop weapons. And of course, a lot of people weren't happy with that, and they demanded refunds, and yeah, and also the security lines were just crazy, all the long lines, and just people were upset, and it affected, at least for me anyway, it affected sales. All in all, I think Phoenix Comicon did handle it pretty well after the fact, but I also think that they were sort of caught off guard, and you think when you're expecting like 110,000 people to show up to an event, there should be some sort of contingency plan in place in case something like this happened, and I don't think there was anything like that. So another bit of drama that happened because of all this banning bringing in prop weapons, the companies that were selling prop weapons, they had to take some extra precautions, and they had to wrap everything in either, I don't know, it was trash bags or bubble wrap or something like that, so that so they were encased in something, so people couldn't really carry them around or brandish them or anything like that. And the big lightsaber company, Ultra Sabres, and this is sort of unclear. It's like a he said, she said thing, but Phoenix Comicon basically ejected them from the con, kicked them out. They said they weren't complying with the new rules and everything. That company said that they were. So I don't know who's right about that. But again, that's another controversy that sort of, people take sides, and there's some people that are pro Phoenix Comicon, some people that are just very upset about how all this went. And I heard from a lot of people saying that they weren't going to exhibit there anymore, and not that there's not a huge waiting list, so I don't really think that's going to hurt Phoenix Comicon at all. But this isn't the first controversy surrounding this convention. Earlier in the year, they tried to implement this policy where if you were a volunteer, you would actually have to pay to volunteer, and that did. Even I was like, yeah, that does not sound right. And in a way, I do kind of see where they're coming from, because they said the problem was that people were going there as volunteering, but not actually volunteering, and just basically attending the con, which isn't cool. But I think there was probably a better way they could do that. So I don't know exactly what they ended up doing, but I know that they we went back and decided not to implement that policy. But there was nary a volunteer in sight the whole time I was there, and there's always been volunteers in the past, and I don't know if that has something to do, maybe it had a lot to do with this heightened security, and they had to basically pull all the volunteers to do other tasks. But Phoenix Comicon has always been a great convention for me, and I've always really liked the way that they run the show, but I'm worried that it's kind of going downhill, and there's a lot of cons that are basically just like giant swap meets, and a few things that happen at this con worry me that it might go down that direction. I really hope it doesn't, because Phoenix Comicon has always been a great convention and very pro, independent artists and things like that. But conventions grow, and sometimes they lose sight of some of that stuff. So yeah, I'm a little worried, but I'm hoping for the best. So some of the things that are kind of worrying me and that kind of send red flags are, like, for instance, in Artist Alley, there was a vendor there that was selling fidget spinners and just blaring loud music, and they're walking around with signs, and all that stuff is supposed to be prohibited. I think you can play music, but you're not supposed to be blaring it. Artist Alley is supposed to be for artists, people who create their own work. Anyone who's not selling their own work is supposed to be exhibiting out in the vendor section, in the big booths and things like that. But I don't know if they weren't aware of this or they just got by, but they were just selling, cheap junk that you get from China, and that shouldn't be what Artist Alley is all about. So that kind of worries me. And there's also a policy about walking around with signs advertising and stuff, but they didn't seem to enforce that. And again, maybe that's because of all the other stuff that was going on, that was small potatoes to them, and they really couldn't bother with that. And the same thing with the volunteers. I didn't see any volunteers. There's always been volunteers coming by with water, asking if they can watch your booth, and I did not see a single volunteer the whole time I was there. Hopefully that's because of this incident and everything, with this armed gunman and everything. And other little things like, the vendor area usually is carpeted, and there was no carpet, so it looks like maybe they're skimping on that. And so I'm a little worried, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, because it's always been a good con. I just hope it continues that way. I don't want it to become like Stanley's Kamikaze or something, where it's just, you've got Geico in there, and you've got all this stuff that has nothing to do with comics, and they'll just sell spaces just to anyone that's willing to pay them, because that really, in my opinion, that ruins conventions. So but so how did I do? Not great, but in the end I came out all right, I guess. So Thursday was a great day for a Thursday. We were off to a good start. Friday was when this big incident happened, and Friday was just abysmal for me. I hardly sold anything. I mean, it was bad. And I thought, at that point, I thought I was going to lose my shirt because I was not, I didn't even think I was going to make table. And I don't go to a con with the intention of just making table. So Friday was super bad. Saturday it started to pick up, and so I was like, well, if Sunday is as good as Saturday, then I'll be all right. And Sunday was good. Sunday was just as good or better than Saturday. So in the end, I made a little bit of profit, not as much as I was hoping, but you know, that's kind of how it goes. And again, I hope this all has to do with what happened, this disaster that was averted, and that that next year things will improve, because I'm worried. But anyway, so that's my experience with Phoenix Comicon. So there you have it. There's my wrap-up of Phoenix Comicon, but that's not all we're going to talk about as far as that subject goes, because the next video I put out, stay tuned for that, because I took a lot of footage while I was out there as well, and I did some interviews with some artists that are doing some really cool things. So I want to show you guys that, and that should be fun too, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, I gotta get out of here. That is all. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me here in the Art Lab. There's a lot of other great content on the channel, so click that subscribe button and you won't miss a thing. If you're an aspiring evil genius, visit Serkworks.com for all your mad science supply needs. And if you want to contact me, hit me up in the comments section or follow me on social media. I'm looking forward to it. I'll see you then.